Hello, 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 America! So, welcome to This Week in Cultural Appropriation. Kind of? Okay, at the end of this, I am going to read you a poem that I wrote. Now, I'm a professional poet. I've been on television performing poetry. I'm a published poet. I don't make my living doing poetry, but I make money every year with poetry, which is a freaking miracle because I have no idea what I'm doing and I haven't really studied it well. But I read a lot and I'm always doing research so I can know more about it. And I just found out there's a thing called conceptual poetry, which I had to Google because I'll be honest, I still don't totally understand it, and I might have to take a class on it or something from K. Silas Muhammad because I'm not totally sure I understand it. But basically, there's this lady. Her name is Lenora Pace, and she's a poet. Well, I also think she's like a lawyer or something. She must be like me, where she like makes all of her money lawyering, but then she poets on the side, where I make all my money theatering, and I do my poetry on the side. I imagine she has less debt than me. Let's get back on the subject. So Lenora Pace, she made this poem that was kind of like a reappropriation of, I don't even know what you would call it. Okay, so there's the text Gone with the Wind, which is full of racist stuff, right? It's full of like these weird ways of writing dialect for the African American characters that this white lady who wrote Gone with the Wind made up in her head, right? So then this white lady took all of that weird language that who's a what's it, memes, semes, and then she made her poem out of those words. So it was just basically like when she's performing it in the dialecty kind of weird. All I know is it's super triggering. Like you can't you sit there and you're like, this is so racist, right? And I don't know like what she was trying to do, like if she was highlighting racism or if she was just reifying racism or, I don't understand because like I said, I don't totally understand this conceptual poetry thing. All I know is that she was supposed to be on some kind of a board that was making decisions about gigs poets got or something, or like the ability of poets to be in this conference, or I don't know. All I know is that Twitter and my Facebook was blowing up because folks were really mad. They were like, hey, this lady should not be allowed to make decisions about, conversations about race and representation, given the tenor of her work. Which, even though I don't totally understand conceptual poetry, I think I might agree with. But on the other hand, this conceptual poetry thing is super interesting. So I wrote this poem, right? Well, I actually wrote three last night, three conceptual poems where I read a lot of articles. And so I was reading an article and the words kind of like were like, we're poetry, reorder us. So I did that. I made poems out of these things I read. These are the first drafts. And then I shared it with my friend who's like, oh my God, one of these poems is totally like this guy Kenneth Goldsmith's poem, which I haven't read yet, but after I make this video, I am totally going to read, and then I think I'm going to do, I'm going to write about it, because I Googled it, because I was like, Goldsmith, who's that? Kenneth Goldsmith. And it turns out he's a white dude who did a poem that was like a remix of Michael Brown's Autopsy Report, and I was like, wow. My playwright friend, Rickerby Hinds, he did this amazing play. It's called Dreamscape, and it's about this real-life black girl who was shot by the cops while she was sleeping in her car. Sleeping, locked in her car, shot to death. And his play is a mixing and remixing of the language, and it's just brutal and beautiful and powerful. So in many ways, I looked at my poem after I wrote it. I was like, this reminds me a little bit of Rickerby Hinds' work, right? But possibly not as awesome. So there you go. Anyway, I will now read one of the poems because there's three, and they're all a little long, so I apologize. If you don't want to experience this poem, you can stop now. Because here's my question. Appropriation. I use that word a lot. When is appropriation appropriate? When is it okay for me to reappropriate something? Is it okay? I have no idea. This poem is called Inducing Panic. I wrote it because I saw a tweet from Sean King, and I clicked on it, and it was an article on the Daily Cause, and it was all about this police report that was written where it accused the dead Tamir Rice of the crime of inducing panic. Cleveland police description, case description, inducing panic, primary victim, Ohio state of... Weapon 1, Area District 1, Section Zone 16, Grid Ward 16, case status open. Number of offenses 2, number of offenders 1, number of victims 3, offense number 1, crime code, aggravated menacing, attempted, committed, completed, aggravated menacing, location type street, criminal activity no gang, alcohol related unknown, drug related unknown, domestic crime not domestic, code, intimidate, hate crime no bias, not applicable, assault, other. Offense number 2, crime, code, inducing panic. Attempted, committed, completed, inducing panic, street, criminal activity, no gang, alcohol related, unknown, drug related, unknown, domestic crime, not domestic, code, public peace, hate crime, no bias, not applicable, unknown. Suspect, Rice, Tamir, E, aka Rice, Tamir, race, black, sex, male, age, 12, eyes, brown, complexion, medium brown, ethnicity, unknown, extent of injury, fatal, medical treatment, unknown, statement type, none, related offenses, 1, 2, victim, Ohio state of, victim offender relationships, Rice, Tamir, E, unknown, victim, primary individual, police officer, race, unknown, sex, unknown, hair, unknown, eyes, unknown, ethnicity, unknown, extent of injury, minor, medical treatment, treat and release, transported by unknown, related offenses, 1, victim offender relationships, Rice, Tamir, E, unknown, victim, primary individual, police officer, race, unknown, sex, unknown, hair, unknown, eyes, unknown, ethnicity, unknown, injury type, none. Transported by, unknown. Related offenses, 1. Victim offender relationships, Rice, Tamir, E, unknown. Property, Rice, Tamir, E, subject type, suspect. Property type, weapon. Property class, firearms. Initial value, nothing. Recovered value, nothing. Notified how? Colt, 1911, pellet gun. Facsimile, firearm, BB gun. Original narrative, aggravated menacing. Facsimile firearm. Police intervention, shooting. Named suspect. Juvenile complaint. Abated by death. All right, so that's that poem, which I am interested in this conceptual poetry thing. Although it's weird, because it's like, I didn't know that Kenneth Goldsmith, I'm going to look up his poem and read it. I didn't know he did his stuff, right? But then I did the same thing. I can't wait to see what he did with his stuff. Because, like, one of these is also a remix of Tamir Rice's autopsy report. Because I decided to make it a triptych, and so I did 3 poems. And I figured I would start with this criminal thingy, and then I would end with his autopsy. And then I found out, well, somebody's already done that. And then, of course, I remembered that Rickerby had totally done that. Like I said, I believe way better than me. It's a really gorgeous play, Dreamscape. Look it up. It's fabulous. You know what I'm going to do? I'm gonna post this video on my blog, and then I'm going to put a video of Dreamscape on my blog so that you can see it, because it's really good. Conceptual poetry. Appropriation? Not appropriation? All right. Goodbye, America.